Hi travelers, Tara here, and I'm back with another Nostradamus reading on the Ukraine-Russia conflict. And I hadn't planned on doing a second one, but something just has been striking me really odd about this situation, odder than the fact that it is what it is. Because I'm hearing names surface in while there are things happening that have a lot to do with 45's presidency and campaign. Now, look, before any of you conspiracy theory people jump up on here and try to talk some smack to me, I'm not basing anything of what I'm saying on hard facts that I can prove to you. This is not my conspiracy theory. This is simply what my intuition is telling me. Okay, so don't come up under here talking about no crazy foolishness, because I'm just going to delete you and block you. I'm just going to tell you that right now. All right? No disinformation here. This is strictly based upon my intuition and things that I am sensing. Now, to get back to what I was saying, somebody came up under the video yesterday and wanted to know who Viktor Orban was. Viktor Orban is the president of Hungary. Here in America, the right-wing faction love him. What's his name? Tucker Carlson was over there broadcasting from that place. He is uber nationalist, which is a nice way of saying a very big racist, okay, homophobe, anti-Semitic, you name it, he's the guy. But he's also, Viktor Orban was like buddy with Putin. And now I just heard, because I said yesterday, he's been awfully quiet. I haven't heard anything from him. And then he pops up today. He condemns the actions of Russia, of Putin, and he agrees with the sanctions. Now, I think somebody was emailed me and was asking me, what's so important about what's happening over there. If you go back, and this is why history is important. I know history may be boring to some of you, but you really, really should pay more attention to it. And if you go back and look at the map of the old Soviet bloc countries, they included Lithuania, Estonia, Azerbaijan, Turkmenia, Hungary, Poland. All of those countries used to be part of the old Soviet Union. And then when it collapsed in the 80s under Glasnost, a lot of those countries became independent. Some of them were able to join NATO. Others some of them are not. They're in the peace or partnership agreement plan. Those are countries like Denmark, Sweden, and Finland. And so you have to know the history, right? Now, and so then after I heard about Viktor Orban coming out and saying something, which completely surprised me what he's saying, and he's also allowing refugees to come across into Hungary, except for the African students who are going to school, had been going to school there in Ukraine. They are stuck between Ukraine and Hungary. They can't go back to Ukraine, and they're not being allowed into Hungary. Okay, so that's another video. But then all of a sudden, President Erdogan of Turkey shows up. And now he's trying to help broker a peace or call for a ceasefire. And the one thing I know about politics is that politics makes for strange bedfellows. Okay? Number 45 was, he admired Orban, he admired Erdogan. Y'all remember Erdogan tried to kidnap that man up there in the Catskills and wanted him kidnapped, and Mike Flynn was going to do it for him and send him over there so they could kill that guy, that cleric that he claims is causing all the trouble in his country. And so it just is odd that some of these names are popping up that really there's a big tie with 45's administration. And so I came and I grabbed the cards and I'm like, what's really going on here? Because there's just too many dots being connected back to the 2016 election. Let me put it that way. And I think if you stand back and look at the larger picture of what is going on in Russia and what is happening right now, and the use of disinformation, the use of, and then try to see what could have happened had 45 been successful in winning re-election again. He was literally going to call for the army to come out and impose martial law on us, arrest all of his enemies. Does these things not sound familiar to you? So there is a direct correlation there. However, I came in and pulled the cards, Nostradamus, because I'm like, just something that doesn't sit right with me about that connection. And what I got was something completely different, which is great, even though I don't necessarily understand what it means. So I thought I'd bring to you this, what Nostradamus has to say. And I'm a bit puzzled by some of it, but we shall see. Now, we ended yesterday's reading with the rise of Hitler. Remember the river Hister, that the sun will not see what the other person, this named esteemed person, is. Okay, so that's the historical reference of this card. But we also had a card in there yesterday that said that, he would be stricken from heaven. This theologian would be stricken from heaven, and that his work shall be no more, right? Now, and I said to you yesterday, I don't know if that means, that he's going to get shot, or somebody going to drop a bomb on his ass, or if something just happens to him unexpectedly. So I don't know. I don't have the powers of Nostradamus. I can't really see that. So that can be left to a wide interpretation. I think what I got out of that the most was this idea that he will be stopped. So what's happening now? Now you've got a whole bunch of backroom deals going on, because I told you that there's something that he wants, Putin, that is personal for him. Somebody left a comment about the pipeline. He thinks it's about oil. Well, it doesn't make any sense to run a pipeline from wherever all the way down to through Ukraine, particularly if they're not going to be able to hold Ukraine. Okay, sending 150 to 190,000 troops is not enough to hold the country of Ukraine. And even the idea of taking the capital and perhaps arresting Zelensky is still not enough to hold the country. You got resistance fighters, and you're not going to invest your time and money into building a pipeline that can be sabotaged, right? So it just doesn't make any sense that it's the oil. So I think it's something different. Now, we can sit around and posit all day long about what we think it is, but only Putin knows for sure. But as I stated yesterday, there's something that he wants that's personal. And so now you've got all of these leaders who probably wouldn't talk to each other or don't like each other, but you've got all of them trying to do what? Get this guy to stand down. Because the truth of the matter is, one stray bullet, one stray rocket in the wrong direction, and the shit can be on. Okay? Really. So if you notice, the troops are all up around the north, the east, and the south. There's not a whole bunch of troops over near the west. Why? Because that's the NATO bloc. Okay? So I saw somebody asking, why was there, not here on the channel, I think they emailed me and asked me, why were we sending troops to Estonia? Estonia is part of NATO. Right? It used to be former Soviet bloc, but now it's in the NATO. And so the NATO agreement says that if one NATO country comes under attack, then the rest of us are going to jump in and help you out. Unfortunately, that's not something that Ukraine is not a part of NATO. They had an opportunity to join NATO back in the 90s when they first gained their independence. But as I say, they're fiercely independent people, and they said, no, we don't want that. Well, now they need the help of NATO. And we can't, the other NATO countries cannot, according to the treaty, enter into the fray. All right? So I lay the cards, and the three cards that I have that he presented to me is the Alchemist, the I think he's like the king of coins. The Six of Spheres, or the Six of Coins, and then the Seven of Stars, or the Seven of Swords. Okay? Now, this Alchemist came up, and let me turn the camera around. The Alchemist came up in another reading that I did. Unfortunately, I'm not able to find it because I see that my notes are kind of haphazard, but there's my little book that I normally write in. And so I've got, all the way back to 2020. But the quatrain that goes with this has come up before. And the one that it ends with has come up before. And I was able to locate this card. It goes back to a reading that I did on November 7th, 2020. And I pulled it up, and I will put the link underneath the video. It was called Election Reading Follow-Up, November 7th, 2020. And in that video, I talk about that I had read and seen some news articles that said that Putin had Parkinson's. And I spoke to you about that yesterday. But I also, in that video, spoke about a change that was coming for Russia. Okay? And it's kind of eerie. I kind of spooked myself when I was watching the video because I didn't remember what was said in terms of what I was saying in that video. So even though I didn't bring in the idea of an invasion might be the cause of this change, I definitely talk about a change, okay? And that there's something that the balance, the tipping. Remember I talked about yesterday a new world order and the tipping of the balance of power? Okay. So that's what the November 7th video is talking about, among some other things. And if I'm not mistaken, let me see if I can give you a, I think right around the 15th minute 15 is when I start talking about this. It may be a little bit, go back to 14 and then go through from there. But I'm definitely telling you that there's something up with Russia and for you to keep your eye on it. Now, I went back to look. The Alchemist is quatrain 3, 2. So when I say 3, that represents a century. The book is broken up into centuries and then the quatrain. So century 3, 2 says, "The prisoner escaped through great danger. A little while after shall become great his fortune being changed. In the palace the people shall be caught, and by a good sign the city shall be besieged." Now, this came up too, I think, when I did a reading and there was this building that came up and I was talking about the building and a lot of you responded by saying maybe it's Putin's palace, or maybe it's this. And I kept saying, that just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right. So I'm not exactly sure if this is telling me. It says the prisoner escaped through great danger. So I don't know if this is a reference to Zelensky. A little while after shall become great. We know that he started out as an actor and now he's like the darling of the world and he is defiant. So his fortunes have changed. In the palace the people shall be caught, and by a good sign the city shall be besieged. Well, we know, we got the card yesterday of hands on the city. So we know, and I said to you, they were saying 3 to 4 days, and I was going, I think it's going to be sooner than that. It's just odd to me that it's kind of slow rolling, okay? So that's first. So I'm not sure if this is about Zelensky. Then I come to the 6 of Spheres. And this quatrain is number, here it is right here. Wait a minute. Is 669. Hold on. Let me refer to the book so I can make sure I got it right. Because I don't want to, I know that that's correct. Let me check the 6 of Spheres. Great compassion. The petite. The 6 of Spheres. If I'm not mistaken. Oh, I got a page right here. 104. 669. Hold on. It may be. Oh, crap. I think I got it wrong. Hold on. It's on purple. What did I say? Page 104? No. Yeah, page 104. Nope, page 88. Well, that's something totally different. So hold on. Like I said, I got to get this book bound. Actually, I read the wrong one. This. Wait a minute. This is the Seven of Stars. Let me put the cards with it. The Six of Spheres, page 104 here. Aha. And then this one, The Alchemist, is page 260. So let me start over. Okay. This is the one that I really don't understand. So let me start over. The Alchemist, this has not come up yet. And this is the one that I don't understand. It is quatrain 3, 2. What a great pity will it be to relong. I think that's what that says. Those that did give shall be constrained to receive. Naked, famished with cold, thirst to mutiny, to go over the mountains making great disorder. What this is talking about, is explained, is that there was the Duke of Guise came to Piedmont to join with the Marshal of Brissac. Then the troops of the Marshal, seeing that those of the Duke were better paid than they were, forsook the Marshal. The history saith there was above 1,500 of them, and that the Marshal paid the soldiers of his own money to, I don't know what this, stay them. The great pity was that when he had no more to give, he was compelled by the king orders itself, and against his own inclination, to raise some monies upon the countries, increase taxes. Secondly, to take some towns and give the plunder to the soldiers. Thirdly, to permit the soldiers to pillage the country. Now, it says here the author, speaking of Nostradamus, was willing to foretell this because there was never a man more strict in keeping the marshal's discipline than this general was. The Marshal of Brissac being thus abused, some of his troops forsook him to follow the Duke of Guise. Being for the most part naked and starved with cold, hunger, and thrift, which makes the author to specific hunger, cold, and thrift, want having compelled them to disband, they were sent over the mountains, not of Piedmont, but the Apennines of Montserrat. Okay, and everything they found was a something, I can't read it, it's Old English. So what this says to me is that it appears what Nostradamus is saying is that weather being bogged down and the length of time that this battle perhaps was going on, eventually the troops gave up and joined with the other forces. Okay, this is quite interesting. That if this is talking about Putin, that Putin has sent his troops in to pillage and plunder and gain, to charge taxes or whatever, make them pay. But that, and I think this is talking about that the Marshal of Brissac is actually Zelensky. No, that Zelensky would be, hold on, for it took him too far, would be the Duke of Guise, and that he's going to be able to turn some of those Russian troops to his favor and his advantage. Okay? And maybe direct them out towards portions of the country to help defend it. We shall see about that. That's that. Now, I don't really understand what that means or if that's what that's really saying, but there it is. And then what we come to, number 104, yes, the Six of Stars, goes back to that, to this very strange quatrain. The divine word shall give to the substance heaven and earth and gold hid in the mystical milks, body, soul, spirit, having all power as well under his feet as in the heavenly seat. Now, there's a long discourse on this written by this guy. And again, as I said, this book was written in 1648. It says, I desire the judicious reader, and chiefly if he be given to the Hermetic philosophy, to take special note of this stanza, for in it is contained the secret of the elixir or the philosopher's stone. Remember that idea of turning lead into gold? More clearly and plainly than in the Tabula Smaragdina of Hermes. I know the name of the book. I just can't read it right. Which, to make apparent, we shall expound it verse by verse. So he starts with the first one. The divine word shall give to the substance. By the divine word, you must not understand the second person of the Trinity, but a doctor in divinity or a theologian, called in Greek something, there's a Greek word here, or divine word, who shall be an adept or a disciple of Hermes, and one that shall attain to the secret of the philosopher's stone. This is kind of weird because it's almost talking about magic. That man shall give to the substance, that is to gold, heaven and earth, and gold hid in the mystical milk. Heaven and earth, that is all the celestial and terrestrial qualities, air and earth, lurking in the gold, which is hid in the mystical milk. That is in the, I think that's Azoth or Mercury of the philosophers. I don't know. It's Mercury, the substance. Body, soul, and spirit having all power. That is the three principles of which the philosophers say their stone is compounded. Body, soul, and spirit. Having all power, that is, having the power to transmute all metals into its kind, as also having all the powers from above and below, as Hermes saith, and then it's in Latin. Okay, something about the pater juice of the sun, the mater vere of the luna, the moon, and the moon, and then the earth, which is confirmed by the last verse, as well under his feet as in the Hermes seat. Now, I don't know if this is necessarily talking about the use of astrology. I don't know if it's talking about the use of magic. I don't understand what this means. But in looking at the picture, to me, this can represent the idea of a leader or some person who is really, with everything that he has, passing on his own philosophy or ideas. So again, this could refer to Zelensky getting his people ready to stand strong. Okay. Now, the last card, the Seven of Stars, and it is page 88. I'm so glad I did this because otherwise I'd be screwed. Is this weird thing. The prisoner escapes through great danger. A little while after shall become great, but his fortune being changed. In the palace the people shall be caught, and by a good sign the city shall be besieged. That's what it says. Now, I don't know if this is because it came last. We already know that the city is going to be besieged. But is this talking about some other place? Right? And if going back to that video that I did back in 2020, okay, it could be speaking of change and revolution in Russia. I don't quite know why he wanted to bring forth this message, because it kind of doesn't make any sense. But then, as we know, he didn't write his stuff for us to make sense, to know exactly what the hell was going on. And so, if I have failed in interpreting this incorrectly, then the fault is really my own. I'm really doing the best that I can. But this is based upon my intuition. And from this, it looks as though whatever the goal was really for him to go into Ukraine, it will not go the way that he expects it to go. Okay? And this whole idea of the Philosopher's Stone. Now, what I find to be interesting about that is Hitler was into all of that crap. Okay? They were doing all kinds of occult stuff, trying to see into the future, using it to figure out where to go next and what to do. And so there's that kind of a thing in it as well. Now, I just heard somebody say the Masonics. I don't know anything about it. Don't ask me. That's not what's coming up for me, so I don't know. Okay. Heard somebody say the Masons. I don't know. And then it is this last card, this Seven of Stars, that really is most puzzling to me. And so I'm going to ask you to go back and look at that again. Like I said, I'm going to place the link underneath the video to go back and look at that video, because it's kind of uncanny. Even though I'm not talking about an invasion, it's uncanny. I have to say it myself. Sometimes I surprise myself. It's uncanny what I'm talking about and the things that what I was kind of saying. I don't remember what the reading was about. I just heard that part because I had to go back and look at the video myself. I didn't watch the whole thing. When I came across that part, I kind of stopped because I was shocked. Okay. And so watch out for that. And there's another one that I did about Navalny and the Russian people. Okay. So that whole balance and the change in the balance of power. And I know several times in some of the readings that I've done in the past that are contained in my little book, there was a reference to the American-Russian alliance for the 23rd century that came up several times. And so I'm not able to, I'm only able to do what I'm humanly able to do. I don't have the powers of Nostradamus. And so I just think that despite the fact that there is an invasion, and despite the fact that the whole world is on edge, really, the whole world is on edge, there is a major seismic shift that is about to happen for the entire world. And, if Russia falls, if they get rid of Putin, however they get rid of him, whether he's stricken from heaven or whether they vote him out or whether they go in there and rip him to shreds and carry him out of the Kremlin, I don't know. Okay. Or he just decides to resign for whatever reason. Maybe because of international pressures and pressures coming from inside of his own country. They may try to get this guy to resign. I don't know if that may work, but we're going to have to pull out every trick in the book to try to get this guy to stand down. Okay? And really, if he is not put in check, we could be looking at a march back into the NATO countries, into the NATO bloc. So that Hitler reference is a real deal. Okay. And I wanted to say something else. Yesterday, one of the cards, the middle card spoke about, Nostradamus was talking about the end of the world and then Hitler, right? Well, there's two ways you can look at that. You can look at it like saying that it's the end of the world because we're going to have another Hitler. But for me, I think had it really meant that, because I said to you that does not, it just didn't come to me that way. Had it been reversed, the Hitler card came first and then the end of the world card, then I would say it's time to, really worry. But I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing this. And I feel, going back to how I started out talking about all of the connections with 45's administration, there may be something contained in here about this that I don't even know. Okay? I don't see it. I don't feel it. But that is what prompted me to come to the cards. And I still say you should keep your eye out on those people that were involved in 45's administration, because there's a lot of tentacles attached to Russia with that. These names that are popping up and cropping up, Paul Manafort was the PR guy for Viktor Orban. Okay? And by the time he got through with Viktor Orban looked exactly like Paul Manafort. Viktor Orban used to wear tracksuits. He was rather unkempt, kind of plump. And by the time that Paul Manafort came in and remade him over, he had Paul Manafort's hair and his suits, and he was thinner. So just go back and do a before and after Viktor Orban, okay, and take a look at this startling change. There's a lot of connections here. And I don't know where that leads, if it even leads to anywhere. It could be nothing. It may just been my intuition's way of telling me to come in here and pull the cards. But, I still don't know what the reason is why Putin is doing what he's doing. As I say, we may never know. There are backroom deals going on. There always are in politics. They make for strange bedfellows. 1 minute they're hating each other, the next minute they're working together. I think it is interesting to see the countries who do not want to pull that country off of the SWIFT banking system. I thought it was interesting the countries that did not, that abstained from voting on the resolution. I thought it was also quite ironic that the veto on those particular sanctions in the UN yesterday came from the UN ambassador, the Russian ambassador, who happened to be presiding over the meetings for the month of February. I don't think any of this stuff is a coincidence. I feel that it was long in the works. And I also think that there have been some communications with certain people in terms of what do you think is going to happen, and not people inside, not advisors in Russia, but advisors here in the United States. That goes back to that 45 connection. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to be X, Y, or Z? Or, what about the timing of this? I don't think it's coincidental. I do not think this is coincidental. And as I said yesterday, it was a masterful stroke. Okay, I'm not agreeing with it, and I'm not giving him his props for it. I'm just saying it's a masterful stroke to come at the time that it did. And he literally has the entire world by the short and curlies. This is a very volatile situation. And again, one stray bullet or one errant missile into the wrong direction, and it could be all over. And I really don't think, nobody really wants that. We all like living. We really do. But I think, too, that there may be some mental issues going on with Putin. And it may be caused by this idea of him having Parkinson. As I said yesterday, I have seen that guy give many speeches, and I've never seen his face reflect any emotion. I mean, and that must take decades of practice not to give away anything with your face. That must take decades of practice. So to see him yesterday, that other day, as angry as I've seen him, I've never seen him that angry. I've never seen him display any emotion whatsoever when he's talking. He's always got this really cool, calm, collected. And the other thing that was interesting was the language that he was using. He was calling the Ukrainian government drug dealers and neo-Nazis and, blah, 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 blah. And it sounded like the language that Viktor Orban likes to use. We also saw the Duerte the Philippines, using that same kind of language, talking about those people who are resisting him. I think it's something personal that he has against Zelensky. I think it's something personal. He does not like the guy. I mean, he doesn't like him. And so that's what I have for you. So I'm going to leave you at that now. Be well, stay safe. And remember, I'm going to post that link to that reading from 2 years ago underneath there. Bye.